We're surrounded by quantifications of our intelligence. IQ scores, standardized tests in elementary and high school, SAT, ACT, MCAT. Often, it feels like our capacity to learn and grow boils down to a number. I'm Dr. Peter Katz, and I teach bioethics and moral philosophy. Today, we're going to talk about this mathematization of intelligence, where it comes from historically and philosophically, and how it can lock us into what we call a fixed mindset. The idea that we have a set degree of intelligence and that we're doomed to adhere to the quantifiable limitation it imposes on us. By using moral philosophy to understand fixed mindset, we'll be able to reject that ossified conception of our abilities and instead to embrace a growth mindset, a way of thinking about thinking that can do away with numerical versions of intelligence and instead place us always in the process of becoming something new and better. Certainly throughout history and across cultures, there have been various versions of fixed and growth mindset. For our history today, though, we're going to start in the mid-19th century, the 1860s specifically, with economist and logician William Stanley Jevons. One of his foundational principles revolved around similarity. Whatever is true of a thing is true of its like. So, if something A shares enough similar qualities with something B, then what is true for A is also true for B. A cat is a mammal, a dog is a mammal, a dolphin is a mammal. Even if the relationship between A and B is an imperfect analogy, cats, for example, are not dolphins, we can still derive some potential claims about that imperfect relationship. They all have live birth. Therefore, what is true for the conception and birth of a cat is also true for a dog and a dolphin. Jevons was an economist and logician who built much of the foundation for how we use statistics in the social sciences. He does this by using his idea of similarity to explore aggregate claims about groups of individuals. You and I share some similarities in our behaviors and habits, so we might be able to draw some conclusions about that imperfect relationship. Let's imagine that you and I both enjoy coffee, and we're also fans of autumn. If I buy a pumpkin spice latte and you buy a pumpkin spice latte, we could probably make some inferences about the similarities between us and the patterns of our behavior. Certainly, my behavior around buying coffee might differ from yours to a certain degree. Maybe I buy pumpkin spice lattes because they remind me of upstate New York, and you buy them because you really like cinnamon. But, Jevons argues, if we get a large enough sample size, those little quirks of personal behavior cancel one another out, and we get a fictitious mean that doesn't necessarily describe me or you, but it describes an average of all of us. This gives us what he calls the character of a pumpkin spice latte drinker. More on character later. Ultimately, the use of large numbers made sense for individuals and institutions facing population sizes and diversity that they'd not seen before. In the 1800s, the population of London was 1 million people. In 1900, it was 6.7 million. The British Empire extended across the globe and included people from vastly different cultures, geographies, and histories. It's no wonder they were excited to find a mathematical tool to cancel out those differences and to produce the character of the average Indian, or London East End factory worker, or Irish farmer. In short, this kind of logic is a quick and easy way to exert and justify power over individuals as part of an imagined character of their population. After World War II, when the GI Bill flooded American higher education with new potential students, Jevons-style statistics on populations offered a quick and easy way to sort through applicants. GPAs, SATs, IQs, and other standard measurements ostensibly offer a snapshot of someone's intellectual promise based on the character of people who have that particular score. Like is similar to like. And it's also done a real number on our sense of ourselves. As we apply to colleges, go through our undergraduate degrees, and apply again to professional schools, we accumulate a set of numbers that purport to tell us how smart we are at particular subjects. It's no wonder many of us fall into a fixed mindset that says, I'm good at biology, but bad at chemistry. I'm good at math, but bad at writing. This way of thinking is a double-edged sword, and both edges are pointed at ourselves. If we think we're good at something because we score well in those classes and on those subjects when we're tested, but then we struggle with the concept in it, we berate ourselves. I should be good at this. If we think we're bad at something, for the opposite reason. We tell ourselves before we even go in that we're going to struggle with writing essays or solving OChem problems, because that's just not something I can do. It isn't in my character to do well in this class. But if we reject utilitarianism like Jevons and look to something like virtue ethics, character takes on a different, more promising meaning. Alistair MacIntyre argues that our character depends on the narrative unity of our lives. But the great news about narrative is that we're always writing the next part of the story. Perhaps at one point we struggled with essay writing, but there's no rule that says our story can't be the story of finding writing that connects with us, of overcoming fears and growing to do better. In other words, a growth mindset recognizes that characters aren't static. In fact, a good story is a journey. It's about characters becoming something new, something better. Intelligence isn't a fixed numerical category. It's a practice that can be cultivated and developed. From a growth mindset, we can learn to understand ourselves as more than just a number. Challenges are opportunities to develop our character. Criticism helps us to smooth out edges. Other successes don't threaten us simply because they got a higher score, because we're a different character than they are. And there's good news. Many of us in higher education are trying to create better ways to foster growth rather than fixed mindsets. In my classes, for example, you can always write new drafts of papers, rewrite answers to exam questions, and work with me and your peers as you grow your ability to articulate your ideas. Together, we can leave William Stanley Jevons and his statistical reductionism behind as we tell our own stories of growth and learning.